From the heart of the Donegal Gaeltacht, Moya Brennan has been the voice of Clannad for some 50 years. From playing in her father's pub in Meenaleka to the great theatres of the world, Clannad, singing mostly in Irish, have sold over 15 million albums. Next year, to celebrate those 50 years, Clannad is embarking on a farewell world tour. Moya, how would you describe your part of Donegal?
It's a feeling, really, you know, when I'm there. And I suppose it's something that you've grown with especially when you started to go away from the area. I grew up there, so I was used to it. And then you travel. And when you come back to it, you just see more and more. It's like a little bit of heaven. It's got an earthiness that I feel that we've kept there for a long time. And maybe it's something to do with the fact that Donegal was always separated from the rest of the country, and you know, nobody used to go to Donegal. They'd come into Ireland, they go to the west or down to Kerry.
From my side of the border, Donegal did feel magical and mystical and all those words that are applied to Clannad. But it did feel, it actually felt like another planet to us.
We kind of grew up there, so we were used to it, but we loved the wildness. You know, we used to be out all the time. That's what I remember. We did use the environment as far as, you know, going out there and, you know, going up the mountains or going down to the beach or whatever. And you know, one of my favourite parts going down and taking a book was sitting by bloody Poland.
Did you feel it was remote? And probably slightly different question, did you feel you were cut off?
Probably a bit, because, you know, there were no supermarkets there when I grew up. There was no TV, you know, and when you go to Mass on Sunday, you come back down and the little shop we'd go to, I had ordered my bunty and duty, and, you know, that was the kind of things that you did. But it wasn't until, you know, my father opened the pub in 1968 that it became more social and everything for us.
While you may have been remote, you clearly weren't cut off from the rest of what was going on in popular culture and all the rest of it.
No, because, you know, with the radio as well, you'd be tuning into Radio Caroline, Radio Luxembourg, and that's kind of where we heard the popular music. Absolutely just fell in love with it. I mean, anything with harmonies, we were mad about things like Mamas and the Papas and the Beach Boys, and I always think that there was a fusion of West Coast America to the Clannad kind of, you know, the Gaelic songs and that.
It's a get-together now of the Sleep Boy.
My father had a show band, and when the show band was sort of dying and everything, they'd sometimes ask my dad if there was a band supposed to come for a dance and they couldn't make it. They'd ring up my dad and says, can you put a band together? So any pop songs we knew, you know, boys were on the guitars, Kieran was in the drums, whatever, and we'd go down there and we'd sing, you know, anything from Sandy Show to My Boy Lollipop to whatever. But we let it come into our music because it was just that atmosphere and that kind of, that culture and the Gaelic songs that my grandparents taught us. It developed in such a very natural way.
Your background was different. I mean, when I think of, say, Maria Mooney, who's a good friend of yours,
yes,
and Alton, and others around Donegal, they came from a more traditional background, didn't they? Even though the traditional music was in your family and the songs were there, you never really thought of yourself as a traditional singer.
Yeah, but we didn't have, the songs were there, but like there was no facilities like that around for us at all. There were the piano, the classical piano lessons, which, you know, you did your exams and that. And unless like you had it in your family, unless your father, your uncle, your auntie, your mother played an instrument or had that kind of trad feel in the family that they grew up with, you had no hope. What we did was just use the instruments that were you know, hanging around the house from my father's show band, which is the double bass, the guitars, the drums, whatever. And that's what we did, rather than kind of pushing ourselves, trying to learn trad instruments. There was no way you could accomplish being good at it without a teacher, you know, without somebody to help you. So we didn't have that. So we never really looked at ourselves as a trad kind of band. We were just a band singing songs. We had the songs, that was the thing. And we knew, because we were a family, we knew we could blend nicely together, and we were always into harmonies.
Were there any of the kids like you in that area of Donegal at the time, or was it just within the family?
No. and people thought my dad was mad. My dad was just a music man, and that was it. You know, he sent me to a boarding school to learn the harp. I hated it. And the school that he sent me to was where Mary O'Hara learned the harp. And that's why he just had that in mind, that for me to learn the harp. And, you know, they teach you kind of religious songs and spinning wheels and, you know, and I just did not like it. And I only started to like the harp when, you know, the boys kind of got me to, you know, play riffs and being part of arrangements rather than kind of a main instrument as such. And I'm still just a plonker on the harp, but...
There wasn't much like you in Ireland, if anything at all, but certainly in England there were those groups like Pentangle and Fairport and people. You had some kind of a model there, I guess.
We were influenced certainly by bands like Pentangle.
Let's get away, you say, find a better place, miles and miles away from the city's race.
It was just, we loved their approach to, you know, singing songs differently, but we wanted to do it with the Gaelic songs. A mixture of songs would be Donovan and Joni Mitchell and Beatles and whatever, but intertwined with all that, we'd sing Gaelic songs. And we didn't think anything of it. But people thought, even the locals thought it was kind of letting yourself down, because it was regarded as a poor man's language. So it wasn't the in thing to do, you know, to sing these Gaelic songs.
Yeah, but this I can understand that in some swanky nightclub in Dublin, but this was the Gaeltacht area of Donegal.
Yeah, but like if you met locals in Dublin at that time, the first thing they'd say to you, don't talk to me in Irish. Because it was like, you know, because being a culture was just not the in thing. Honestly, so I met people from Donegal and that's the first thing they'd say to me.
So you're singing in Irish, in the Gaeltacht, and local people are telling you,
and say, yeah.
And they're telling you in Irish that you shouldn't be singing in Irish.
Well, you're letting yourself down, because, you know, there were, you know, country music and things like that were big, and, you know, and they thought that visitors wouldn't be interested in the Gaelic language. Singing the old Gaelic songs, you'd be in a session, music flying along, and then when they wanted a break, a singer would sing a song. And the only instrument that was allowed to accompany a singer was a harp. But anything else was no harmonies, no nothing, just plain singing.
Did you have any ambition at that point? Because I mean, if even your neighbours were telling you shouldn't be doing this, you couldn't have possibly conceived of it being successful elsewhere.
No, we didn't. I mean, we loved what we were doing. And we were doing this, and then the local sergeant used to come in on Sunday to listen to us, Sergeant Joyce, with his family. And one day he came in and he had a forum, and he said, you know, Leo, he said, you should put your family in. There's a folk competition in Letterkenny in August. Why didn't you put your family in it? And so Daddy came to us and he says, what do you think? He said, oh, no, we wouldn't be good enough. So we just left it at that. So, like, come kind of the day before the last day of putting the entry in, somebody came across the forum, I think it was Padraig, and he said, look, will we put our names forward, and then if we don't want to do it, sure, we can just pull out. He says, what do we call ourselves? So my grandfather piped up and he says, Clán As Thor. And we said, oh, that's a bit awkward, you know, we said in Irish. And he says, okay, take the abbreviations of A and the D, and he says, stick it onto Clán and Clánad. I thought, that'll do us. You know, not thinking that it was going to be forever, you know. we sang a Gaelic song. I played one of the only pieces I knew on the harp, Brian Brew's March, with Paul and the bongos and everything. We got through to the final. We were astonished. It was a serious competition, so winning that will always be one of the most amazing times of my life. With all the accolades that we've achieved and everything, it still sticks in my mind at being just like really out there, because it was out there, you know.
It's almost like, you know, Clannad succeeded because of, even though you all had fantastic musical chops and so on, almost succeeded through, because you were kind of naive in some way.
Totally.
And also because of your limitations, because of what you couldn't do.
Yes.
You did something else.
Yeah.
You made it up.
Yeah, we did. We did. The prize for Letterkenny was making an album. It was with Phillips. They were not interested in doing anything with us. But then after that album, there was a couple in Germany, and they heard our album, and they came to Donegal and asked us would we go on this 30-city tour of the Irish Folk Festival. And we were the last going on, doing a 30-minute spot at the end. And look, it was amazing, because the Germans didn't mind us singing in Irish. You'd explain the songs and they just loved, you know, and I suppose not realising we were developing a sound, they loved the sound. And the last day of that tour, we were in the Berlin Philharmonic Hall, and we got a standing ovation. And we went into the green room, we looked at each other and we said, well, we go professional and see what happens.
Harry's Game. It was the writer of the novel who got you involved in this.
Yeah, he heard our 6th album, which was Fuam, and we had a Scottish Gaelic song. It was the time we started to use the Prophet 5, and we were doing harmonies and everything, and he heard that, and he was actually thinking, would that work with the show?
Because the show was, I mean, it was a lot of violence in it, with the Troubles in the North, it was nasty stuff.
And we were never a political band, so we'd be kind of careful as far as where, you know, because coming from Donegal, you just couldn't be, you know. I remember going in to see the Rushes in Dublin. They came over to show us, and it is quite violent, and it was about the Troubles in the North. But what grabbed us was the fact that the two main characters on both sides die at the end. And for us, it was kind of, look, nobody wins in the sense of war. So we liked the whole ethos of what it stood for, the fact that, you know, this is crazy, you know, and so bringing some sort of a surreal kind of, you know, ambient kind of sound at the end of that appealed to us. You have to remember as well, there were only 4 stations, you know, on the Irish station. So everybody used to watch if there was a series coming on, and there was a lot of promo for it. Noel Edmonds had a show before Top of the Pops on the radio, and he played it, and it's short. So there was this pause at the end. He wasn't expecting it to finish so soon. And then he went, you know, oh, that's beautiful, amazing. I don't know what, you know, and I haven't heard of these before and everything. And then he went into the next song. And when he came back after the next song, he said, okay, we're inundated with calls. He says, we're going to play it again at the end of the show. So he had to play it again at the end of the show. And then on Monday morning, Terry Wogan got hold of it. And then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night of that week. And it was amazing. And then 13, it changed our lives.
At 12, Annie, I'm Not Your Daddy from Kid Creole and the Coconuts. At 11, the highest new entry is the theme from Harry's Game. And here to perform it is Clannad.
Because it was in Irish, you didn't expect that you were going to appear on Top of the Pops. when people say, what's it like writing a pop song? I said, we didn't write a pop song, you know, but it became popular. We were in Germany touring, and so we had to cancel 2 gigs to fly in and do Top of the Pops. There was limos waiting for us, and now people are used to limos, but then not really. We were jumping in and out the limos and taking pictures of ourselves, you know, at the airport. We were still naive.
You're now called, I've seen this, the First Lady of Celtic music. I suppose it's as good a term as any, really, isn't it?
Well, I suppose, you know, you find yourself under labels, you know, and yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, it's now has appeared that what they call the Celtic sound is kind of like our sound, anything that resembles that. That's the only way they could describe it, that it came from the earth of, you know, of Donegal. Ethereal, magical, whatever. The sense of what it gave them, hearing the sound of Harry's Game, was just very different.
Winners are from the Donegal Gaeltacht. Clonard!
One of the things about Clonard is it all came from the heart and soul.
Let's hear it for Clonard.
And that meant more to us than, you know, pushing to be famous and making lots of money and everything. It just, the music meant that to us first, more than anything else.
That term Celtic music now is a very broad church. It
is.
includes yourselves on the good side of it, and it drips into this stuff they call New Age as well. Whatever that is.
In America particularly, you have to be categorized to be put into something. And there was a lot of genre of music that they didn't know where to put sometimes. And they came up with New Age. And that's why, you know, when we won the Grammy, it was in the New Age category. I didn't mind, it was a Grammy.
Let's talk a bit now about, if you will, about your faith. Presumably traditional conservative Catholic background.
On Sunday morning, my father played the harmonium in the little church that we used to go to, and my mum would be, you know, leading the choir. And so we were brought up being part of the choir, and that was something that was always there. Going to Mass every Sunday was always something you had to do, because everybody knew in Donegal if you didn't go, you must have been very sick or something like that. Now, you know, I went through the usual thing of, like, I didn't need church, I didn't need my faith, you know, I was free, I was up in Dublin, I didn't have to go to Mass on Sunday. And it was great. And, you know, and as a young band, you know, traveling in Germany, and when we were doing the folk clubs and places like that, you know, you'd stay with friends or people that would you'd sleep on floors or whatever. And they'd have a party for you, but it was like having a party every night. So you got into a very, very bad habit. And if anybody thinks that being a folk band, a nice folk band, that there's no rock and roll in it, there's a lot. It's just the same. You fall into the same
And you were very rock and roll, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I was out of control with my own life, maybe, and I kind of knew inside, but everybody else would have thought I was a party girl. I was having a great time. But like when you're by yourself, when you close that door, and when you kind of have to face yourself, look at yourself, and you sort of say, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Where am I going? Whatever, And it's just, you just fall into a pattern that, it's not a happy pattern, and everybody knows that. So lucky enough, there was a moment in my life that I opened a drawer that was beside me, and there was a prayer book in it that my grandmother gave me years before that. But I started to talk to God and just started saying, look, help me with this, or whatever. And so little things started to change in my life as far as, it's very hard to describe, but I pray every day. Every day. The first thing I do in the morning is I have a book that has a daily kind of prayer, and it gets me just going, and I pray for people that are on my heart.
Has faith or your devotion to music been challenged by the fact that you're ill now and you've got this, as it's described, a life-limiting illness?
Yeah. Well, I think having faith helps you. I mean, over 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with what's known as pulmonary fibrosis. It's scarring of the lungs, and your breathing eventually kind of goes. And you have no control over it, so it could be for a bit longer than you don't. It's dangerous to look at Dr. Google, isn't it? Because it can scare you. But I was taken aback. One of the things that was good about it was that I could continue to sing, and it's good physio for the lungs. You just look at things differently, and I think with my faith, that's what carries me through. Even at the moment, I've had such an amazing life. But I also know, and I believe, that he will protect me and that he will help me carry this through, to the extent that I do believe in miracles as well. So, and that gives you an incredible sense of hope.
There's a sort of a retrospective album coming out as well as a tour. It's 50 years, I mean, what's going through your mind when you go on a tour like that?
We're calling it In a Lifetime Tour. And when you say you're doing a final farewell world tour, people laugh because they think, yeah, I hear that all the time. But because I suppose of my condition as well, that puts, a kind of a genuine, vibe on it. And we'd like to reach everywhere as much as we can. So it's all really very exciting, but it is definitely the farewell tour. And looking forward to it, really, in a big way. I think we're going to have a nice time.
Moya, thanks very much.
Thank you.